Hi, everybody.
Hey.
How's it going? I guess that's a question to you, Ashley, since no one else can answer.
I'm doing good. How are you, Carl?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm happy to be here tonight. And we are
Hi,
so.
everybody.
Oh,
Hey.
hold on. I
How's it
have to
going?
mute myself elsewhere. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Um, we're so happy to be here tonight. We're so happy to be welcoming Jaclyn to join us for class this evening. Thanks to all of you who are here. It's so awesome to be connected tonight in this space, even though we're all in different places across New York and across the country and the world. Um, as we often say when we begin these digital events, this is such a strange time. We don't want to pretend like it's not. This is a really scary time. It's a really painful time for our community, the theater, and the country, and families all over the world. And so this opportunity tonight is hopefully a source of joy for you. It's certainly fulfilling for us to get to celebrate artists and playmaking, which we love so much. We can't do right now in the way that we're used to doing it. So thanks for being a part of it with us. Um, this program has been around for about 4 years. Um, we've been doing. Oops, where we go? Um, we've been doing small group classes and larger classes in our space on 42nd Street for a while. In the spring, we pivoted into these digital events, which, like I said, has been different than what we thought we would be doing this summer. But the silver lining has been that we've gotten the opportunity to connect with so many more people than we ever would have been able to if we were just doing these events on 42nd Street. So we're thrilled about that. Many people come to these events who are writers, who are theater makers, who are looking for tools to inform their own practice. And we are so thrilled that you're here. Thanks for being a part of this. And many people who come to these events are not makers of any kind, have no experience in the theater at all. They love the theater, or they saw Men on Boats, or they saw Wives, or they know Jaclyn's work, and they want to hear from her or get some insight into something totally new. So you are also so welcome. We are so excited you're here. This is for you. The hope is that this experience might offer you insight that might enable you to um, uh, interrogate work in a different way as an audience member. So I hope that this class might give you a fresh perspective that might be fulfilling to you in your creative practice of seeing new work. We are going to probably do some interactive exercises tonight as part of Jaclyn's session. So thanks to everyone for keeping an open mind and maybe trying something you've never done before. But that's part of the spirit of this too, and we're all in it together. Just to remind you, I think everyone should have gotten this word in advance. If not, fear not. But the hope is that you would have a a pen and paper, scissors, a cup of some kind, and very importantly, to quote Jaclyn, a beloved object to adore on your desk. So if you don't have that yet, it's okay. Take some time, maybe assemble some materials.
Sweet. Thanks, Carl. And yeah, thank you all for being here. I'm going to take us through land acknowledgement. I'm speaking to you right now from the ancestral homelands of the Munsee Delaware Nation and the Matinecock Chieftaincy. And I'd like to situate Playwrights Horizons, our building on 42nd Street, with an acknowledgement that we developed in conversation with the Lenape Center. So Playwrights Horizons acknowledges that our theater, located on the island of Mannahatta, is situated on land that is Lenape-Hoking, homeland of the Lenape. We pay respect to the Lenape peoples, Lenape elders, and their ancestors, past, present, and future. As our theater's work and community extends beyond this island, we acknowledge that the Northeast is the homeland of many Indigenous nations. Playwrights Horizons pays respect to all Indigenous peoples who have stewarded this land throughout the generations and to their ongoing contributions culturally, intellectually, artistically, and spiritually. And because we're gathering digitally tonight, we want to give a shout out to Adrienne Wong of Spiderweb Show in Ontario, who very sagely invites us to take a moment to consider the legacy of colonization embedded within the technologies, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. So a brief order of operations. Jaclyn is going to take the floor for about 30 minutes or so, and she's going to lead us through a presentation. Carl and I are going to be floating nearby in case we need to pop in, but we will fully reemerge to facilitate a Q&A for about another 30 minutes or so. And so in the YouTube chat, you can feel free to type any questions there over the course of Jaclyn's lesson. And our colleague Iman will be present in the chat and help make sure all those questions come back to me and Carl for the Q&A. We probably won't be able to get to every question this evening, but we're going to do our best to keep things moving and answer as many as we're able to. And a quick reminder just that we'll be recording this event for potential release down the line.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I think that's it for us for now. So Jaclyn, we would love to welcome you to the floor. Hi.
Hey. Thanks for having me, y'all. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Okay, so we'll disappear, but we'll just...
Okay, so good to see you. Bye, bye. Bye. Hi, everyone. Hi there. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you for a sec. Before I start all the talking that I'm gonna do, all that talk and all that chat, I have got a tactile assignment that I thought I could like let you start on while I speak, so you have a little bit of something to work on. We can get ourselves moving. It's a tactile assignment for all of us to set our space. So I'll give you those instructions, and then I'll chat, and you can like do your thing, and then I'll keep on chatting and give you some fun stuff to do. So as Carl said, you will need a piece of paper to cut up, something to write with, scissors to do the cutting, and a small cup. And I think you will also need extra paper or an extra place to write that is not the paper that you're going to cut up. So either more paper or a journal or computer, whatever you have that you want to write on. So the tactile job that I'll give you the instructions, and then you can happily work on it while I introduce myself and all that. So you're going to take your cuttable piece of paper, and you're going to draw one line down the middle, and then you're going to draw 4 lines across like this. And then you're going to number each of the squares 1 through 10. It should make 10 squares, so you'll number each square 1 through 10. And then when you get to it, when you're finished with that square making and that numbering, you're going to cut each of the squares out. You'll fold each square 2 times, and you will put each square into your cup. And when you're done with that, you just leave it, put it to the side for now. We won't use it right at the top, but go ahead and work on your squares, papers, work on making those little pieces, putting them in your cup, and I will say some things. So hi, my name is Jaclyn Backhaus. I'm really happy to be here with you. I am zooming in from Ridgewood, Queens, land of the Munsee, Lenape, Canarsie people. I'm really excited to be here with you. A little bit about me. I write plays. I teach students. I'm part of an artistic process company called Fresh Ground Pepper, and I'm also a mom. And so you might hear some video game sounds or something in the background of this. I'm sorry, not sorry. So I'm going to start out by saying that, welcome to this class. I would say that it's by no means a master class, for I'm not a master. I have merely learned to steward my own artistic impulses. And today we're going to learn how to do that together, or practice, engage in that together. And we're going to learn more about the uniqueness and the singular nature of all of our own artistic processes. We're going to write together in a collective space. And I think rather than calling this master class, I'm thinking about it more like a practice session. So we'll get to do a lot of different things. We'll get to practice together and come out on the other side together. So I'm a big believer in a few things. The first thing I'm a big believer in is hiding my self view on my Zoom, because it really distracts me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my hands? Like my whole brain. So, okay, I did that. Okay, so I'm a big believer in a few things. The first one is that everyone is a writer. The prompts that we're going to get into, I'm ushering all of those in with that truth in mind. No matter how you identify or how comfortable you feel with writing, you are a writer. You are crafting narrative, you are shaping narrative, you are shaped by narrative. And if you've ever told a joke or a story at a dinner table, then you're a writer. So you are a writer. And if you need to, you can just take a moment right now to write that at the top of some page near you, in all caps. I am a writer. The next thing that I'm a huge believer in is focusing on process. I think that what you write stems from how you write it, and it's a lot more enjoyable for me, and I think potentially fruitful, to not focus on the end goal at the outset, or what people call the product. It's not about the product of what you're working on, but it's actually more about what you learn along the way, about what you're writing. Goals are good, end goals are good, intentions are good. And in fact, I do set intentions for myself before every writing session, but I also make peace with myself when I inevitably stray from them. So in remaining malleable, in allowing yourself the space to listen to the work you're making and letting it tell you what it wants to be, in finding new courses than the ones you anticipated, you are then working in a way that makes the most sense to you. And your work will surprise you, and it will evolve on terms that you didn't anticipate. And so, yeah, all of that to say is, in looking at writing and in thinking of writing as a process, I like to keep the goals small, and I like to keep the goals ever shifting. I'm a big believer in writing from a place of joy. That's super, super important to me. Listening to and responding to work from a place of delight, and making work from a place of kindness. I learned this practice with a theater practitioner out in Pennsylvania, named Mary Wright. And she learned it from a storyteller on Long Island named J. O'Callahan. The practice is called delighted listening. A lot of my teaching work surrounds retooling the writer's mind to not look for what's wrong about what they're working on, but actually to look for what inside their creation is exciting, inspiring, delightful to them. And, what in the work is leaving things that you might want to know more about. So it's really, it's about looking at the work for what is working and what is intriguing us and what is sparking our curiosity, and moving from that positive place forward rather than moving from a negative place. This allows us to, it just allows us to be aware of our work in a way that makes us feel like we want to keep going, especially right now. Finding sustainability in that positive energy, it can be fortifying. So those are the big questions, that I try to ask my work as I'm working. What delights me? What do I want to know more about? What about this? What in this work am I becoming aware of? So finally, on this note of kindness, and being kind, I'm currently working from a place of depletion. I think a lot of writers are right now, a lot of theater artists are right now. It's a time when we're burnt out, and when we're worried about the world, and we're focusing our attention and our energies firstly, and importantly, on taking care of ourselves and on making sure that the world that we are stewarding around us is made better for the people who live in it. The people around us. And that doesn't maybe leave us a lot of room to write right now. But what it does, it allow us to do is to examine new ways to write. Maybe we're not able to write in the old ways that we used to, but maybe we're able to speak freely about where we're coming from, to not conform to models of what writing should be, to embrace that place of depletion where we're at, be honest with ourselves, and then with the intention to shift it toward a place of abundance, to find those ideas that might sustain our creative energy, to be kind to ourselves. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to fill up our cups, our literal cups, and our mind cups, our vibe cups. We're aiming to move from depletion, from scarcity to a place of abundance. So we're going to do some exercises. We're going to have some fun. Don't think too hard when I lead you through these things. I'm probably going to move a little faster than I would in a normal session. So delight in the fastness, delight in needing to catch up, delight in being caught off guard by some of the things that you end up putting on the page. All of it is right. It's all right. And everything about you is right. So yeah, we'll move swiftly. We're going to go. I think the first thing I would like to do is take out that object that you would like to, that you have brought with you, to lovingly kind of anoint our space. For me, I have a whole box of very precious objects that I don't know what it is. It's about like setting the space and being intentional with the fact that I'm sitting here to work, not to check my emails, not to, be weird on like, I don't know, Zillow looking for places with backyards. It's like, I need to remember that this is writing. So when I take this object in my hand, probably not the googly eyes rock today, it probably will be my cute little elephant. I'm going to thank my space around me for being conducive to this moment. I'm going to thank this object for setting the tone. I'm going to place it in a place that feels good to me and that feels like, I'm going to place it right here on this tiny perch. Yep, that's good. So place your object wherever it feels good. And then we're going to go ahead and start. The first thing I'm going to do, is kind of ground us. We have our space, we've thanked our space. Let's kind of ground our energies. So I'm going to ask you all to close your eyes, and I'm going to read a few passages from some books that have been inspiring to me. The first is a book by Adrienne Marie Brown. It's called Emergent Strategy. And this is just some of the first few lines from that book. So, wherever you are beginning this, take a deep breath and notice how you feel in your body and how the world around you feels. Take a breath for the day that you have had so far. And a breath for this precious moment, which cannot be recreated. Now, another for the day and night coming. Here you are in the cycle between the past and the future, choosing to spend your miraculous time in the exploration of how humans, especially those seeking to grow liberation and justice, can learn from the world around us how best to collaborate, how to shape change. And then moving forward in this book, you can keep your eyes closed as I read. Toni Cade Bambara, a Black feminist, writer, organizer who left lots of wisdom for us, said two things that I turn to when I start to wonder if art is enough of a contribution. On one hand, as I referenced earlier, she said, the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. On the other hand, she said, writing is one of the ways I participate in transformation. From this wisdom combination, I see that I am charged to write about the revolutions I long for, and that any writing I do, even if it isn't explicitly political, is still a transformative act. Keep breathing. I'm going to read one more passage from Rupi Kaur, The Sun and Her Flowers. Remember the body of your community. Breathe in the people who sewed you whole. It is you who became yourself, but those before you are a part of your fabric. Honor the roots. And now I'm going to read from Harriet the Spy by Louise Fitzhugh. Harriet was trying to explain to Sport how to play town. See, first you make up the name of the town, then you write down all the names of all the people who live in it. You can't have too many or it gets too hard. I usually have 25. And now I'm going to read from Madness, Rack, and Honey by Mary Ruefle. Sorry, Mary. Everyone knows that if you query poets about how their poems begin, the answer is always the same: a phrase, a line, a scrap of language, a rhythm, an image, something seen, heard, witnessed, or imagined. And the lesson is always the same. And young poets recognize this to be one of the most important lessons they learn. If you have any idea for a poem, an exact grid of intent, if you have any idea for a poem, an exact grid of intent, you are on the wrong path, a dead-end alley, at the top of a cliff you haven't even climbed. This is a lesson that can only be learned by trial and error. So with that, you can go ahead and open your eyes, shake out your limbs, feel that good energy in your brain and your eyes and your shoulders and your cheeks, in your elbows and your wrists and your fingers. I'm going to give you 1 minute on the clock to write out on the piece of paper or the computer, the journal, wherever you are writing today. I'll give you 1 minute to set some quick intentions for the next few minutes of writing. So 1 minute to write out some quick intentions. I'll go ahead and start the clock. Okay, and now we're going to move into some more free writing time. I'm going to throw out some questions. You can answer them swiftly, answer whichever ones feel resonant to you. But I'll just periodically pepper in some questions. It'll probably take about 2 minutes overall. The first question is, what do you need around you to write? What do you need around you to write? Do you have any favorite places to write or favorite materials, things that you need present in the space? What do you need around you to write? What time of day do you write? Are you a morning person, a night person? A very intriguing middle of the day person? What do you need around you to write? What time of day do you write? Where do you get your ideas? This is kind of a major question, but if you don't have an answer to this, I guess more specifically, what inspires you in your daily life? Where do you go for your reading? Where do you get your news? Where do you go for inspiration? What well springs do you have in your orbit that provide you with the abundance that you need to create? Where do you get your ideas? Are there any writing habits that you love, that you want to keep? Are there any writing habits that you want to break? Spend a moment writing on your habits. spend 1 second writing down your favorite play that you've ever seen or read. A play that inspires you. And then spend more time, maybe 20 seconds, writing about a play that you have never seen that you would like to see one day, or write. And wrap up wherever you're at with any of those questions that you left off on. The next prompt is going to be a little bit more conducive to your interests, to your taste, to your it's building on this this kind of things that delight us idea. So this is an exercise that I call snacking. Snacks in the terminology, it's not like Cheetos or like pita chips and hummus. It's I'm thinking of these as the snacks or the morsels for your mouth and for your mind. So these are things that inspire you, things that you're obsessed with currently. They can be topics of interest you want to research, topics of interest you're an expert in, historical moments, shows or movies that you love, a quote that you heard, something specific about a person you love, your favorite yummy words, something you can't stop learning about, a book that you love, a song, a feeling, a social movement, an inspiring event that you heard about, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to have you make a list of snacks. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to make a list of 10 snacks. So again, don't be too precious about what you write down. It feels very weighty. It's the things you love, but just let it impulsively flow. I'll give you 2 minutes to write down a list of 10 snacks. And you will number them 1 through 10. Not in order of how you like them, just like so you have a list of 10 things. Okay, 2 minutes on the clock. I just realized I'm just sitting here while y'all are working. I should be doing my own exercises, but I have this, it's really hard for me to like feel like I'm being a caring facilitator and being like, well, I really love I May Destroy You on HBO and like writing my snacks list. Sorry, I don't want to distract you all. Keep working. I just want to be, I send my good vibes to you as you make your list of snacks. You have about 30 more seconds to write that list of 10 things that you're obsessed with. You can go ahead and start wrapping that up. The next exercise that we're going to do, actually, okay, so 1 second, just like shake your hands out, shake your like face out, make a weird sound, blah. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so you have your thing of snacks. The next thing I want you to free write about, and again, this is super, super quick. I want you to spend, I'm going to give you 1 minute thinking about a world. I'm thinking about like a play world, you know, I'm thinking about the idea of like the play world, the world of a play, the settings. I'm thinking about like this ecosystem that you would want to spend some time in, you know, I'm thinking about like, oh, I would love to see a play, like that question you may have written down about in your free write. I would really love to see a play, set on Jupiter. And before we can do that, we need to just spend some time really dreaming up Jupiter. So we're going to spend a minute dreaming up a world. This is an umbrella world that you want to spend time in, a play world that feels delightful to you, fruitful and intriguing and mysterious to you. Go ahead. I will put a minute on the clock. Just riff on a world that you want to spend some time in. If you need help thinking on what to talk about, you can write about the temperature of the world. You can write about the size of the world. You can write about the foliage in the world. If the world is a 3-story house, what are the hierarchy of those floors? If the world is a department store, what are the different neighborhoods? I don't know what those are called. Oh, I've never worked in a department store. I've worked in a lot of places, but never a department store. You have about 10 more seconds to write about this world. And then now I'm going to ask you to write down. And this is another list. I'll give you a minute to come up with this list. Another list of 10. This is going to be a list of 10 nouns that exist in this world. So these can be people, they can be places, more specific like settings, or they can be things. And I want you to spend a minute coming up with 10 nouns that exist inside this world that you've kind of started to riff on. Go ahead. And when you have those 10 things, those 10 nouns, I want you to think, okay, now you have 10 nouns from this world. You've also made a list of 10 snacks, and this is where our cup comes in. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you draw 2 numbers. Why don't you go ahead and do that right now? Draw 2 numbers from your cup. So say you drew a 2 and a 5. You are going to go to your nouns list, and you are going to find the 2nd thing on the list and the 5th thing on the list. And you're going to go ahead and write those 2 things at the top of your page, of a new page. And then why don't you go to your snacks list, pull that back out. Go to your cup and pick one more number. Say you pick a 3. You're going to find the 3rd thing on your snacks list, the things that you are obsessed with. And you are going to add that item to the top of this page. So let's say you had two nouns. One was a woman named Janice and a farm. And then something that I'm currently obsessed with is Super Mario, because my son is obsessed with Super Mario right now. So those are like 3 ingredients. And I think I'm like almost at my time here, but I would love for you to just spend like, I'll put 3 minutes on the clock. I would love for you to start writing a scene that incorporates the 2 nouns that you drew from your cup, the 1 snack that you drew from your cup, all inside a scene together. You can incorporate them as, you can make up characters if you need more characters. You can add more nouns. You can put them in a setting from your nouns list that you may have made up. However you want to configure all of that, go ahead and just spend 3 minutes not thinking too hard and crafting a world where all these things can live together. Have about a minute left of this mini scenelet exercise. Okay, you can go ahead and start wrapping up. And the first thing that I would like you to do, I'll give you just a couple of, this will be a quick thing as well. I would like for you to write down 2 things about what you just wrote, what you heard in those passages, what you worked on in your listing exercises. Find 2 things that delighted you and go ahead and write them down. And when you have those two things, I would like for you to write two more things, list out two things that you want to know more about, either from the scenelet you wrote, the exercises that you worked on, the lists you made. And I want to share with you, as you write those things you want to know more about, that the scene I wrote in Sharpie is something I learned about was that Super Mario has a fear of hanging out. He's kind of shy. And Janice and the farm, who is a character, is like, they're both pretty good friends. Super Mario feels like an outlier in the situation. So something I want to know more about is how Super Mario can be brought into the fold. All that to say, all of this to say, you can kind of make anything with so few things. You can, the ideas that you embark on do not have to start out with full capacity. They can be scraps of paper. They can be things, they can be drawn from whatever corners of your brain that you are accessing at the moment. And this exercise with the cup and the numbers, I do a lot, especially if I've had some more time to really flesh out my thinking on a play world. If I have a chance to really nail down 10 potential settings and 10 really, potential characters, then I will often do this exercise, this chance exercise, drawing numbers and saying like, okay, character 1 for my list and character 6 for my list are going to be in location 5. And then character 8 is going to walk in really late and have 2 lines. I'll give myself constraints like that. And when I am able to do that and kind of let chance kind of shake up my process, shake up my state of mind, get me a little bit more free and less precious with my thinking, I find that I'm able to find some really fun stuff that I wouldn't have necessarily found. So that's my spiel on chance, on finding joy, and on trying out some new things. I'm going to close us out. I have like a whole list of exercises. I don't know how I would ever get them to you, but I don't know. Maybe I'll like post them on Twitter or something. But yeah, chance is my favorite. So I'm going to close my lesson out here, our practice session, with a passage from Devotion by Patti Smith. And it's just really nice. And I thought it would be nice to say out loud before we all congregated back with Carl and Ashley. So why is one compelled to write? To set oneself apart, cocooned, wrapped in solitude, despite the wants of others. There are stacks of notebooks that speak of years of aborted efforts, deflated euphoria, a relentless pacing of the boards. We must write, engaging in a myriad of struggles, as if breaking in a willful foal. We must write, but not without consistent effort and a measure of sacrifice, to channel the future, to revisit childhood, and to rein in the follies and horrors of the imagination for a pulsating race of readers. That is the decisive power of a singular work, a call to action. And I, time and again, am overcome with the hubris to believe I can answer that call. Things are slow moving. There is a pencil stub in my pocket. What is the task? To compose a work that communicates on several levels, as in a parable, devoid of disdain of cleverness. What is the dream? To write something fine that would be better than I am and would justify my trials and indiscretions. To offer proof through a scramble of words that God exists. Why do I write? My finger as a stylus traces the question in the blank air, a familiar riddle posed since youth, withdrawing from play, comrades in the valley of love, girded with words, a beat outside. Why do we write? A chorus erupts, because we cannot simply live. Thanks, everyone. Hope you had fun. I sure did.
Hi. We're back.
Hi.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
So if you have questions, everybody, please, feel free, drop them in the chat, and Aman is there sort of monitoring, and we have eyes there too. So don't be shy, now's your chance. But to get us started, you mentioned, Jaclyn, the idea, everything about you is right at one point. And I think that it looked like that resonated for some people in the chat as well, who remember that from Wives. And that's such a huge, important, beautiful idea. And I wonder if you want to say anything more about that, or in the context of Wives and your journey in that play to finding that, or what that means to you.
Yeah, I think a lot about it. I think it's the kind of thing that I will certainly, I think in writing it into the play, and in what that play and kind of the culmination of that play meant to me at that moment, I felt like there was a lot of my personal struggle in capturing a fully multifaceted woman, not to put it on the binary, but a woman outside of what is termed like the male gaze, and kind of the seeming impossibility inside of the construct of the play that I had started to craft for myself. I was really trying to break my own play, because I felt like what I was, the way that I was trying to allow a character to exist on stage was it felt like it wasn't living up to what I see as potential for that character. I was thinking about how I was feeling very lost during writing that play, because I was feeling as though I didn't have the answers that I needed to feel at peace with myself. And I think that a lot of writing that out for myself, writing that everything about you is right passage in Wives at the end was really, it was really about me discovering the kind of tools that I needed, the language I needed to embody myself with, in order to, that I could practice and practice until it became true. It was kind of an ideating, a visioning exercise for me, something that I wanted to be true but didn't believe. And I think that in putting that on stage, it felt very vulnerable to me, because I think even as we were making it in the room, I didn't quite believe it. But then when I heard, it was actually through hearing from other people, strangers, friends, how much that line resonated with them, because they had never read it. They'd never heard it said to them. They had swallowed their own version of self-hate that comes with believing the opposite of that statement, that like to hear it was so dynamic. And that made me realize that that there was something essential that wasn't just mine. It was a universal quest to believe in oneself. And it really, there's so many people that say, like, you can't, as RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? And like, if we all embrace that kind of radical self-love and that affirmation, then we might be able to make the world a better place for everyone else who lives in it with us.
Thank you. Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Sometimes I'm like, did I say it right?
Yeah, I think you touched on the heart of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. In the chat, we've got a lot of people who felt really excited by all the exercises you shared with us. And folks are wondering, like, just would love to hear more of those exercises, or ways that you incorporate chance into your process.
Oh, yes. Okay. So I had a really good one that I didn't quite have time for. So I'll talk about this one a little bit more than maybe some others, because I was like ready to do it. So I've had some amazing ability to work with some amazing teachers who really shaped my practice. And not all of them were writing teachers. In fact, one is a choreographer named Annie B. Parson, who I am the world's worst dancer. I will tell you that, but she was very gracious. And also, like, you know, she told the truth. She was like, you don't believe in yourself. Like when I would dance, I was like, yeah, how do you know that? Anyway, she would do a lot of chance exercises when she was teaching us how to choreograph. And it was like, she would have a dice and, you know, each face of the dice would correspond with different facings in the room. So like you think you're choreographing a dance like straight on toward the audience, and then she rolls the dice and she's like, oh, you rolled a 3, we rolled a 3. Like you're actually going to be doing the dance to the wall. And like, how does that change the shape? All of these exercises she gave, you know, she gave to us. She, I believe some of them were derived from like Merce Cunningham exercises and stuff. But anyway, she made these amazing like cards. They're called elements of composition. And sometimes elements of composition, a deck of cards, Big Dance Theater produced them. And they're kind of like, to me, they kind of read like a tarot for making things, creativity. So if I'm feeling like I need to focus my perspective of what I want to write on something specific that isn't like making up characters and isn't like making up like a setting or whatever, I'll be like, okay, there's something extra that I want to focus on while I work on this scene. So I'll draw from this deck. Like I just got surface, which when I'm writing might mean that I come up with a character who's super surface, or I might be like, oh, this means that like I need to really pay attention to the cover that one character is fronting for like whatever crazy drama is going on behind the scenes, or something happens on the surface of a table. You know, I don't know how it's going to affect the writing, but it will. There's a bunch of really great ones in here, focusing on emotion. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones, focusing on repetition. Which, you know, these are all meant for choreography and for movement, but I find that because theater also deals with that kind of mercurial performance movement element, that a lot of these things are actually really fun to incorporate into writing. So that's one way that I incorporate chance. Shout out Annie B. Parson. Another way that I will incorporate chance is I will, it's not really chance. I guess it's more like, I often try to bust my own plays open or crack them open a little wider than I've thought about. So if I'm pretty like stuck inside a one setting play, I will have myself go through a couple of different exercises. One is what happened on this very spot 1,000 years ago, and I'll write out that history. Another is what happened in this space on Thursday, the Thursday prior, that isn't actually part of the play. What happened, what is this space going to look like 1,000 years from now? You know, just kind of not really chance based, but a little bit, I have a whole list of prompts that I will ask myself to engage with if I'm ever feeling like what I'm setting out to write is not making itself clear to me at that moment. Sometimes I'm like, I have an outline and I'm like chugging on the outline. Or like if I'm working on a play like Wives or Men on Boats, both involved historical research and source materials, source texts. I'm like, oh, I can go back to the source text, but it's actually kind of more fun to be like, instead of the source text, like, what was that person's, what was that person's like 5-year-old birthday like? I don't know, stuff like that.
As a quick follow-up to that, like, do you have any exercises that you use to help unstick yourself when you started a story but don't know where to go next? Like, is it the chance stuff? Do you turn back to your outline, or do you have other tools or things that you do?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the project, but I get stuck all the time. In fact, I'm stuck on something right now. And I feel like what I usually try to do, like for a quick shakeup, is pick one of the characters who I am finding a lot of joy in, kind of that leading from delight thing. And I'll just write them like a beautiful monologue. I'll write them a song to sing. I will try to follow them on a journey that I hadn't quite planned for. And that always feels nice. It feels, another thing that I like to do is I like to make a list of scenes that I know that I want to work on. And I will circle the one that feels the easiest to do. If it's not chronological, that's great. You know, like try to break up the pattern that I maybe have been writing in to see if that kind of alights some new information for me. Yeah, it's like, oh, I think I could totally like knock this one out of the park right now. Then I'll set my timer for 10 minutes and I'll just start that scene. And I can figure out a way to thread it back in, or to, to find how it aligns with what I've written so far after I've worked on it. But yeah, it's good it's a nice way to kind of move away from the expectation,
Have a question about whether you have thoughts about like what might be some good ways to begin a daily writing practice or ritual. What are some ways that what has helped you with that and discovering what works for you?
That's a great question. I mean, truth be told, I feel like my daily writing practice I've never actually been able to sustain one. I find that I have a very sporadic writing practice. I think that I guess maybe I'm being too hard on myself. I think that my writing practice doesn't look like a routine, like some writers who I know have very set ways in and ways out. I would say that my daily writing practice looks like on the scarcest or slightest of days. It looks like the kind of free writes that I started us off with, like where, what do you need today to write? What are you, what is, things like how is your reflecting on process in past days, things that I'm delighted by, things I want to know more about, ideas I've been having, kind of just like journaling, ideating and I would say that like keeping that practice up has really helped engaging with, I've been teaching a lot these last few years, and that has really fortified me because I feel like I am consistently engaging with other people who are, students who are on deadlines and stuff, but who are also articulating new ideas about their own practices. And so I find inspiration in that from them. So I feel like with community, I'm able to hold myself a little bit more accountable to a writing practice, if that makes sense. And though that's hard in person right now, I've been able to find a couple of different, either in a sort of like teacher student capacity or in like a peer writerly folks, peer thinkers capacity, that has been able to, get me into a group that feels good. But yeah, it's hard with even the best intentions, for me to fully engage in a practice. I find that time away actually, especially if it's after like a long, more arduous writing process, that stepping away for a little bit is actually pretty good. Getting outside it safely and, spending some time on cooking are ways that I decompress from like a very intense writing process. Which when you don't have a writing routine, usually it ends up being like 3 all-nighters in a row ahead of a deadline or something. So yeah, gotta find balance.
Thank you.
Going back to when you were talking about writing with other folks, somebody had a question about exactly that, which is, do you ever write with other people? And when you do, how does your process change? And what are some important guardrails to have in place when you are co-writing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, it kind of, guardrails or things to think about are like, what is the duration of the writing experience? Whether it's in person or whether it's in like on Zoom or on Facebook Live or something. Like if I like to, set my intentions both for what I want to work on, how I want to engage with the process, but also intentions for how I want to interact with the space. And I think it's good to be able to have open communication with that, like with whoever you're planning on working with. Make sure that there are people are respecting rules of in and out, respecting rules of music or no music. Maybe it's someone's duty to make the playlist for the group, and maybe it's someone's duty to provide like a nice reading to kind of like set the mood. Maybe it's someone's duty to keep time, and maybe that kind of sharing responsibility, I find, is a great way to let everyone come to the space ready to like works in their solitude, but also engage in collaboration. There have been a couple of like writerly happenings where like I put too much pressure into those writers meetings, and like I have to remind myself that like if I'm getting like frustrated in a room with other people, that it's good to be able to like I don't know, set community agreements around taking up space, best practices in order to like make sure that the space you're taking up doesn't impede on other spaces. Something that I've had to work on or like think about is that like if things are going very well, I'll like giggle at myself while I'm writing, which I think like is really weird. It's really weird for other people to be like in a room with me or like even on a Zoom with me if we're like all randomly not on mute and me just being like like giggling kind of at like kind of nonsensically at like stuff that I'm working on. But yeah, everyone gets like it when you're in the zone and you're like in your process, like you kind of lose sight of how you're acting outside it in your body. And I don't know, a trusted group of people who is there to joy in your joys and help you through your hardships. I feel like if you're able to kind of share those experiences with each other, you can like help each other through the stuff. Work on your things.
I have a question from Chloe, who is a former student of yours, I believe, and she says this brought her so much joy. But you spoke a little bit about working from a place of depletion. When you have made something from that space, how might you bring light into something like that? Where maybe what could come next? Where could you go with that, or any thoughts or ideas about?
I think that if I am working from that place, I need to be very careful with how much energy I'm expending on what, So I think that if I'm working from a place that is either I'm depleted in the world and I am working on a process, or the process itself is covering subject matter that leaves me depleted, that I need to make sure that I have like really built out in ways in and ways out of those processes. I need to set some like hardcore boundaries. I think that when I'm working from a place like the place I'm working from right now, which feels like what I find most positive about places being in a place like this is that I've been able to work on my writing process long enough that I know that when I get to this place, that it's not a time that I should be forcing myself to output too much. I recognize when I'm in a place of depletion, I actually need to fill up my cup. I need to like be reading things that inspire me. I need to be maybe watching things that inspire me. I need to be out in the world or in the Zoomosphere, like engaging in ways that are not just about me, that are about that are I guess, like fulfilling in other ways, fulfilling in ways that I would not necessarily think too, that like, oh, this is going to be really, me reading this book or me, you know, volunteering for this organization is going to be really great research for my next play or research for my project. That like, actually, I need to kind of slice through that impulse as well. I need to be filling up my cup for the sake of kind of re-engaging with a sense of balance.
This is maybe another way into the same issue, but how do you manage the quote unquote vampires / mean voices in your head while you're trying to create through joy or from a place of joy?
Oh, it's so hard. I mean, the first thing is like, the first thing I do is I get like really aggressive with how, I get really aggressive with the use of the word delight. The use, like, we don't often go around being like, I'm delighted by this ice cream, or like, I'm delighted by by how swiftly I folded my laundry. Like, it's like not like a word we use often. So I kind of try to lean into the sort of seeming frivolity of that word, or like the bubbliness, the frothiness of that word, to kind of like disarm the vampires, I guess. I find that when I've done this exercise, a larger, sorry, I have a seltzer burp. That's so gross. I'm sorry. Like when I do this exercise in my classes where like, or I've done it in a few classes, not all of them, where I really heavily kind of lead a delighted listening workshop. You know, there are prompts in there that are quite silly. We move so quickly. People are partnered with each other that don't know each other very well. There's like quick exchange of ideas. It's all about like keeping the pace up. And I find that when you're engaging, especially with delight, and engaging too with these kind of chancy exercises, that you are, you're alleviating yourself from the pressure of like making something perfect. You know, you're alleviating yourself from a pressure you might put on a scene that you have planned studiously for. So yeah, I think that like a way to disarm them is to kind of, yeah, like put up all of the, like put up sort of almost weirdly, I don't know, the way that I am judging even the idea of like being delighted. I feel like that's my vampires shining through. But like, you really just have to lean hard into the delight. Don't judge yourself. Like, check your judgment at the door, shake it off, and engage in the exercises. You know, get through your writing, follow your impulses only from that place of like giddy joy, and then at the end you can just you know, see what you've made. But but they do exist. They'll come back, especially when it comes to the time when you have to start like engaging in revising, or engaging in, you know, it feels like there's a moment when you have to kind of engage with voices that might deter you. But I do think that that if you just like make it as weirdly joyful as possible at the outset, it kind of freaks the vampires out. They leave you alone. They're like, she's doing something. I like don't know how to engage. They like go sip a latte and come back later.
Maybe perhaps related, when do you decide, or maybe decision isn't the right word, but how do you sense or know that a play is finished, or when you've come to the end of a process?
Oh, that's such a good question. These are great questions. I find that a play is usually finished when someone tells me that I have to stop working on it. And that happened with Wives. Like, we were in previews, finding new ideas and ways to, you know, continue to connect threads. And I was doing like macro rewrites and my tiny little ones, like little, like I'd be like, that word should be that word. And my actors for Wives, you know, they were incredible and so accommodating. And thrilled and also quite tired of me changing things. And I think that, I've even gone back to Men on Boats. I've gone back to plays that have been published. And this is a newer phenomenon for me, having only been published for the first time in the last couple of years. Being like, oh, this play isn't finished. I feel like they're never finished. I have to just let them go. I have to close the chapter of my attention, my writerly attention on the draft. And I think that, like, if, I always go back to like context and stuff. Like when I'm thinking about a play, when I'm far enough along in a play, like draft and a half, second draft in of a like full length work, and I feel like I can speak to how this play is interacting with the world, what this play's impact on the world will be. When I start to like get a sense of that context, I know that any revisions or any finishing of the play that has to be done has to be continuing to re-engage with that context and that impact. And I find that if once I'm making like changes for the sake of me liking a word better, that has nothing to do with engaging in that impact in that context, then perhaps the ship has sailed for me on meaningful changes to the work. Perhaps what I'm doing at this point is making myself, driving myself a little mad. But I think that if I can, once I have that context kind of metric in place, I can make changes that are meaningful, and then at some point I can engage in a healthy letting go process.
So we're just about at the end of our time, but we have one more question, which is, what are good day jobs for early career playwrights? So this is more of a practical question, but what's a job that gives you flexibility, but also some financial security?
Great question. So when I graduated from school, for my BFA, let's see, I worked in an office, which was great for the printing. I was a receptionist. It was great for the printing, and then when this is all happened in like 2008, there was this, the whole like, what do they call it? The like recession, the like something burst. Everyone lost their jobs basically. So I couldn't have that anymore. No more free printing, no more office job. And then I moved into restaurants. My goal, I guess, the question really is like, you have to ask yourself, based on the kind of like circumstances you're in, survival wise or like jobs wise, are you trying to stay in a particular place and therefore look for jobs that allow you to survive in the space you're in? Or are you a little bit more malleable are you flexible in space? Are you able to move to a different city for a job that might fortify you? Are you interested in a job that would make you, if you were in New York, say, are you interested in a job that would bring you out to Idaho or to Seattle or to Chicago? So that's a good question to ask yourself. But yeah, I found that for me, working in restaurants, which I did for about 5 or 6 years, was great because I was able to make some like quick money, but hard because the hours were not kind on my writing practice and on my body. You're walking around for like 10 hours and you usually have to deal with sometimes very rude people who dehumanize you, and you take that feeling home with you, and then it affects your working life. I found that retail for me was really positive because I was able to have boundaries between myself and customer service. I wasn't taking my work home with me. Of course, these are all jobs that existed sort of, this is pre-pandemic job stuff. So I think what it comes down to right now is like, are there jobs based on your ability to be in the world, your ability to feel like you're safe in certain spaces, what are jobs that you can take on? You know, I know a lot of people who are writers who are taking on remote tutoring, who are taking on like random like sort of data entry, kind of like, you know, work from home type jobs that seem to be paying the bills. Me, I've been teaching a lot, and I think that if I were to need to ramp up anything, it would probably be teaching. It would probably be teaching, yes, getting maybe certified in childhood education, so I could teach like for a school or as part of a curriculum, an existing curriculum, rather than having to like find my own clientele. Right now I'm teaching in college. So yeah, it feels, you know, I think back on graduating in 2008 into a not as drastic, but still pretty severe recession, and having to focus less on my creative practice and less on my career aspirations, and focus more on how to sustain my health, sustain my wellness, sustain my well-being. And I think that like it can be disappointing at the outset when you're working on things that are not what your passion is. But your passion will always be there, and you'll be able to revisit it, you know, once you have those core needs intact. I hope that was helpful. I feel like I had like, I like ran speed dating events. I distributed postcards in Rockefeller Center for Pandora bracelets. Like, I was this close to wearing one of those like wavy, like those like fluttering, like weird, I don't know what they're called, like sock, those like flapping around sock things that like advertise businesses. Yeah.
Are there people in those?
No, there's not, but sometimes there might be.
Well, good to know. Yikes.
I feel like they have the souls of people. Ernie we see them on the street. You know, there's one outside this like phone store near my house, and Ernie sees it and he goes, he's like, look at that guy. Like, he's like, hi, like waving, you know, they.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I should also mention, I dropped a link in the YouTube chat, but we actually have a pretty great section on our website called Resources for Artists that was spearheaded in part by Lizzie Stern, who's our literary manager. And there's some great sort of FAQs from a financial planner that we work with, some emergency grant opportunities, some info about remote jobs. So there is some good info on phnyc.org if you're curious.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much, Jaclyn, for your generosity tonight, being with us. It's so awesome. You're the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And thank you, everybody, for being here, being in community with us, being part of this program. It's so cool. You'll get a thank you note from Ashley and I in a day or two. It'll include the link to this if you want to revisit it at any point. The last thing that I would mention is that we have another one of these 1 week from tonight, which is Monday the 15th? 16th, with Heather Christian, who is an extraordinary theater maker, musician, the creator of Prime, which was the first episode of our soundstage audio play series. So if you haven't signed up yet, please do phnyc.org/pop. We would love to include you next week too.
And really quick, if you're at all inclined to support Playwrights Horizons and the POP program, we'd be so grateful. You can visit phnyc.org/donate, or even just text POPPH to 44321. Ta-da! And additionally, if you want to share any reflection or insight about your experience tonight, Carl and I would love to hear from you. You can write to both of us at pop@phnyc.org. And yeah, we're just so grateful that you spent this evening with us, and so grateful to you, Jaclyn. We hope all of you out there, that you and your loved ones are taking care and staying safe. And we can't wait to see you back on 42nd Street at some point in the future.
Yay.
Yay. Thank you,
Thanks, everyone. Be well.